Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in any part of the world. Thank you for joining our daily AI book reading, where we spend 30 minutes of our time to go through some selected AI books. The beginning of this year, we started, um, the goal was to complete the reading of four books, and so far we've read three of those books. The first one is titled AI Governance, a Primer, and the author is Edward Aden. And the second book we read is titled AI Governance, Applying AI Policy and Ethics Through Principle and Assessment, and the author is Dr. Darrell Joe Carlton. And the third book we read is an unofficial guide for prepping for AI governance professional certification. And the author is Nicole Joy Emgat. And the last and not the least, or the last, or the least um, from those four books is titled Responsible AI in the Age of Generative Model. This is a book that we're reading, and we're almost done with this. We're almost done with this book. We're almost done with it. Yeah, we're almost done with it. And we've learned so much about the concept of responsible AI, the concept of AI governance, the concept of AI safety, and also the concept of AI ethical practices. And it's been an amazing journey. We've understood the various principles of responsible AI and how they are integrated. How they are integrated individually. And we've also learned how organization can incorporate this framework into their development of AI systems. And we've also learned about various framework that are being pioneered by independent agency to make sure or to help formulate that we have rigid and robust ethical practices in order to mitigate likely challenges or likely risks associated with artificial intelligence. And we've also seen some AI regulation framework that is being put forward or that is being developed based on territories. I mean, nation-based AI framework. Like we have the EU AI Act. In the US, is currently supported by National Institute of Standard Technology, which is the NIST AI responsible AI framework. And we've also seen the likes of the big, organization like Amazon, like Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, coming up with their own responsible AI principles, which has no much difference compared to the standard framework. They are very similar. Probably, there were additional elements that were added to the responsible AI. Okay, let's get started. If you're just joining, please endeavor to share this on all your social media platforms so others can have, the opportunity to learn about artificial intelligence. Okay, and also understand how to incorporate ethical practices in the adoption and also in the implementation of artificial intelligence. Okay, let's get started. We're in part 10, Emerging Regulatory Framework and the EU AI Act. This is what I was just saying a few minutes ago, even though we covered a little of those information, and now we're going to go into details of the EU AI Act. Yeah. Okay. I needed to say hello to someone. Okay, let's get started. We're in chapter 72. The title is Navigating the EU AI Act, a comprehensive guide for companies. Following nearly half a year of discussion, during the late and early hours between December 8 and 9, 2023. A pivotal consensus was achieved among the European Commission, the Council, and the Parliament on the interim regulations that will form the foundation of the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act, which is abbreviated as EU AI Act. This accord signifies a landmark in the world of AI governance, representing the most substantial ratification of what is often referred to as comprehensive AI regulation by a leading global political entity. The EU AI Act is poised to be the cornerstone regulation shaping the use of AI globally. Similarly to the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, the EU AI Act aims to govern the ethical use, risks, and governance of AI, significantly impacting companies worldwide. Organizations must prepare for compliance or face substantial penalties. What is the EU AI Act? The EU AI Act is a broad, overarching piece of legislation designed to regulate the deployment and application of AI actions of AI across the European Union. It categorizes AI systems based on the level of risks they pose, from prohibited practices to high risk and low risk application, and set out a framework for compliance that include transparency, data governance, and risk assessment requirements. What is affected? The EU AI Act affects a wide range of stakeholders. One, companies developing AI products. Those wishing to sell or market their AI-enabled products in the EU must comply with the Act. Two, downstream users of AI products. Organizations using AI, regardless of where they are based, must comply if the AI interacts with EU citizens. And thirdly, the public. EU citizens can expect increased transparency and potentially more control over how AI systems interact with their data. Our reason for focusing on the EU AI Act. The EU AI Act warrants particular attention from business leaders around the world for several reasons. One, most advanced regulatory framework for AI. The EU AI Act is the first comprehensive regulatory framework focused specifically on governing artificial intelligence systems, unlike narrower proposals dealing with limited aspects of AI. The AI Act takes a broad horizontal approach in regulating the technology similar to landmark laws like GDPR. Now, there is more like a flow chart here, as I can see. The first thing is AI use cases, then followed by risks, and we have, I can't see this, uncontrollable risks, then we have high risks, and lastly, we have low, I think low risks. And next we have prohibited. Then the high risk must comply with strict rules, and low or no risks, no action. Okay, I think that is easy. It classifies AI system into prohibited high risk and low risk categories. Instead of blanket regulation, rules become stricter depending on the level of risks to individuals and society. It completely prohibits certain manipulative and exploitative uses of AI. High-risk system must comply with stringent requirements, around data sets, transparency, human oversight, and robustness. Lower risk system only face minimal transparency rules. The risk-based method is expected to balance innovation with protecting citizen rights. The EU approach would, will guide other regions. The EU has emerged as a pioneer in digital regulation around primary content and tech companies through laws like GDPR and Digital Service Acts. Given the size of a single market, EU legislative acts have always shaped global norms related to the internet. The AI Act is expected to follow the same pattern. Many key provisions like requirement for data governance, documentation, transparency, etc. are in line with other ethically aligned recommendations from bodies like IEEE and the OECD. This will allow the EU framework to serve as a model AI governance law that even more EU countries may adapt for consistency rather than reinvent the wheel. It could accelerate adoption of shared rules for trustworthy AI across major technological powers. Three, practical business impact. The AI Act mandates certain compliance requirements for systems used by EU end users or consumers, regardless of whether the providers are within EU territory or not. Large non-EU companies like Microsoft, IBM, Amazon, Google, Meta will need to tailor many offerings for the EU market specifically. Strict prohibition may also curb business plan around certain AI application in the region. But the Act broader risk-based approach gives innovative companies regulatory clarity on paths aligned with legal obligation and citizen rights. By boosting public trust in AI, it may also spur speedier adoption of AI innovations within Europe, and if EU laws become template for other large regulatory markets like the US and Canada, following the EU AI Act will ensure global interoperability. Definitions and scope. The EU AI Act put forward detailed definition that set the scope and boundaries for what constitutes an AI system and various related terms. Getting the definition right is crucial to enable legal clarity while avoiding unintended consequences from rules that are too broad. Definitions of the AI system. The key definition relate to what qualify as an artificial intelligence system under the regulation. The technical definition covers software that is developed using machine learning approaches listed in the regulation Annex 1, which enable you to achieve giving human-defined objectives with some degree of autonomy. The important aspects are that the software must generate outputs or predictions aimed at a particular purpose based on analyzing its environment with the ability to influence or impact the surrounding it operates within. The definition focuses on the functionality rather than the underlying technology, aiming for it to be adaptable to future AI advances that may use different techniques beyond current machine learning. Other relevant definition. Other noteworthy definition include specifying providers that develop or deploy AI systems, users that utilize AI system, related operators across the AI value chain, as well as a definition around high risk, transparency, and requirement related specifically to biometric identification systems. Scope and territorial applicability. A major reason the EU AI Act matters is its broad scope, spanning all users and providers of AI systems within the EU region, including systems developed elsewhere that are utilized by individuals in EU states. The law applies extraterritorially, focusing on the usage environment more than the origin of systems. Compliance requirements get stricter depending on the risk level of the AI system application or use case. A risk-based approach. AI, as defined by the Act, encompasses systems that perform tasks typically requiring human intelligence, such as inference, decision-making, and learning. The Act follows a functional approach to defining AI, focusing less on the technology and more on its application and outcomes. As highlighted previously, the EU AI Act introduced a risk-based approach to regulation. It defines prohibited practices, high-risk application with significant compliance requirements, and low-risk application with minimal requirement. High-risk AI systems are subject to rigorous conformity assessment and ongoing monitoring to ensure compliance. The first one is unacceptable risks, which is prohibited. Real-time biometrics, social scoring, algorithm, manipulative systems. My apology for the noise in the background. Then the next one, IRIX, must comply with strict rules. One, biometric identification and categorization of natural person. Two, management and operation of critical infrastructure. Three, education and vocational training. Four, employment and worker management. And five, access to essential services. And next, law enforcement. And next, border control management. And next, administration of justice and democratic processes. Four risk categories are defined. The first one is prohibited AI practices, which is unacceptable risks. This top tier prohibits certain manipulative, exploitative, and socially harmful uses of AI via bright line rules based on fundamental rights consideration. Such prohibited practices include sub-minimal manipulation, exploitation of vulnerable groups, use of AI for social scoring, and deployment of real-time remote biometric identification system in public places. The only exception is allowing such biometric systems not only if essential for targeted searches for missing persons or preventing terrorist threat to life. Strict safeguard must govern any permitted use cases. IRIX AI system. AI system that pose significant risks to health, safety, and right can still operate but must fulfill rigorous mandatory requirements related to data set, documentation, transparency, accuracy, robustness, and human oversight. Various qualitative criteria detailed in the law will determine which system qualify as high risk. The current list covers areas like critical infrastructure, job, healthcare, law enforcement, migration control, but can expand over time as risk assessment evolve. Now, um, the AI EU Act categorize the AI risk management into four categories, or categorize the AI risks into four categories. And the first one is unacceptable risks, which is prohibited. And I'm going to explain that a little bit. What that means is if you are building an AI technology in the area of border control trying to use it to identify people. Such AI solutions are not acceptable in the EU territory. That is what that category is specifying. And I'm going to recall those specific areas where AI cannot be utilized. They can't even give it a trial. Yeah, it is not acceptable. And let me go quickly, let me do a quick recap of those places. Where can I find that again? Based on fundamental rights, such prohibited practices for subliminal exploitation of vulnerable groups, the only exceptions align such biometric system, AI system pose significant AI system that pose significant risks to health, safety, rigorous mandatory data set documentation, various the current list of areas. Okay, yeah, I found it. Now in EU, you cannot use AI like areas of critical infrastructure, AI jobs, healthcare, law enforcement, migration control. You can't bring in artificial intelligence in these areas. Yeah, it is prohibited. It is unacceptable. Yeah, real time biometric. Like you're using AI at the airports, like to make decision if someone is eligible to pass, what do you call it? Yeah, the TSA pass, as in the US. There must be like an human oversight. Yeah, that is exactly what they are saying. Then there are certain areas where AI cannot be integrated within the EU region. Okay, let's move to the next one. IRIX AI system. AI systems that pose significant risks to health, safety, and right can still operate but must fulfill rigorous mandatory requirements related to data set documentation transparency. Now, they said if AI needs to be integrated in these sensitive areas, there are certain things that they have to comply with. In compliance with what data set they're using, there must be constant documentation practices. They must demonstrate transparency, accuracy, and robustness and human oversight. Then various qualitative criteria detailed in the law will determine which system qualify as IRIX. The current list covers areas like critical infrastructure, jobs, healthcare, law enforcement, migration control, but can expand over time as risk assessment evolve. Two, limited risks AI system. AI system presenting limited risks are subject to lighter touch regulation focus primarily on transparency obligation. This ensures users are aware they are interacting with an AI system through compulsory self-identification disclosure. Minimal risk AI system. This category entails AI system deemed low risks. They carry no new legal obligation but still remain subject to existing product safety and consumer protection regulations. Obligation for providers and users. The EU AI Act lays down legally binding requirements for providers and users of artificial intelligence systems depending on the risk category involved. Obligation for providers of high-risk AI system. These are the obligation. Then, if you are an organization that is providing any form of AI risk solution, if your AI solution is categorized as high risk based on your assessment or based on using uh, maybe any of the AI framework assessment tool, then using those tools, you can use it to categorize your AI solution if it is IRIX or not. Okay, let's move on. The EU AI Act lays down legally binding requirement for providers and users of artificial intelligence systems depending on the risk category involved. Obligation for providers of IRIX AI system. Providers that develop or deploy IRIX AI system yet the greatest compliance burden under the regulation. The obligations include one, ensuring IRIS system comply with all mandatory technical requirements of the regulation, covering data set documentation, transparency, accuracy. Two, establishing a quality management system that systematically document development and design procedure, testing protocols. Three, maintaining comprehensive technical documentation for authorities to verify compliance. And next, embedding capabilities to automatically log system activities. And next, following conformity assessment procedure based on internal check or third-party audit. And next, proactively reporting any significant incident or risks from the AI system after deployment. Obligation for other operators. Other entities like authorized representative importers and distributors also have explicit duties around ensuring compliance, cooperating with authorities, and facilitating enforcement as relevant given their role in the AI value chain. Requirement for specific use contexts. Additional obligation tailored for providers and users of AI system deployed in special scenarios like publicly accessible spaces for children or employee monitoring are covered as appropriate in relevant sections of the regulation. Obligation for users of high-risk AI system. Beside obligation for developers and vendors of AI system, the regulation also places certain responsibilities on businesses or government users deploying high-risk systems, especially around transparency, risk mitigation, monitoring usage effect, and record keeping. But no new direct regulatory burden applies for non-high-risk AI system. The conformity assessment. The conformity assessment is a critical step in demonstrating compliance. It can be internal, where companies attest to meeting the requirement, or external, where an independent body verifies conformity. The assessment check for proper risk management system, technical documentation, adherence to quality standards. Then preparing for compliance actionable steps for companies. Wow, this is a lot. Okay, we're almost done. First, assign responsibility. Designate a person or team to oversee compliance effort. Two, conduct an AI inventory. Identify all AI systems in use, whether developed internally or procured from vendors. Three, assess scope and risks. Determine which AI system fall under the EU AI Act and categorize them by risk level. Then next, implement risk management. Document the risks associated with each AI system and establish mitigation strategies. Then finally, prepare for mitigation and human oversight. Plan for necessary adjustment to AI system, including human in the loop processes. With prohibition set to take effect in 2025 and high-risk requirement in 2026, the timeline for compliance is tight. Companies must act now to assess the AI system, understand the risks, and begin implementing the required control and processes to ensure compliance. Non-compliance can result in fine up to 7% of global annual revenue for deploying prohibited system and up to 3% for non-compliance with high-risk system regulations. The financial implication highlights the critical nature of understanding and adhering to the EU AI Act. Just like the GDPR, the EU AI Act represents a significant shift in the regulatory landscape for artificial intelligence. Companies across the globe must prioritize understanding the obligation of the Act and take concrete steps toward compliance. Failure to do so could result in severe financial penalties and operational disruption. As the Act finalizes and the compliance deadline approach, the message is clear. The time to prepare is now. Governance framework. The EU AI Act set up a governance structure for oversight and enforcement of AI regulation, both at the European Union and national member state level. European Artificial Intelligence Board. An EU-level advisory board called the European Artificial Intelligence Board is created, consisting of national representatives and the European Data Protection supervisors. It issued guidance to ensure harmonized implementation and facilitate coordination between national authorities. European Artificial Intelligence Board. Oh, sorry. National competent authorities. Each member state must designate one or more competent authorities and a national supervisory authority responsible for supervision and application of AI regulation within their jurisdiction in compliance with the framework. EU database for high-risk AI system. A public EU database will be maintained featuring key information about providers and systems categorized as high risk based on their intended purpose, which authorities can access to verify compliance. Monitoring, compliance, and enforcement. Various authorities have responsibilities around market surveillance, including investigating compliance through methods like document reviews, technical checks, and testing. Then financial penalties for violation account for an offending company revenue and other factors. Support for innovation. Special regulatory sandboxes at both EU and national levels will allow emerging AI systems to be developed and experimented with before full deployment to facilitate responsible innovation by by providers, small and large. This governance plan will enable effective oversight of AI across the European Economic Area while helping align competency building and on-ground enforcement of regulations consistently. The multi-layer cooperative structure brings together various experts, stakeholders, agency critical for trustworthy AI. Wow, this brings us to the end of today's AI book reading. Thanks for joining. My name is Henry Onole, your AI expert, your AI strategist, your AI futurist, your AI advisor, and your AI, your responsible AI expert. If you have any question, do not hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm currently in the city of Paris here in France, attending a summit titled Race Summit. I will have the opportunity of interviewing some of the top AI founders, and yeah, my focus is on artificial intelligence. Then I'll be interviewing some top AI founders and CEOs. Yeah, I'll be interviewing them or companies that are building AI products in different form. I met with some of them yesterday. During the boat cruise, we had a VIP yacht party, and yeah, it was an amazing experience. Then I did a live stream on it yesterday, but I'm going to post some pictures, some interesting pictures that you guys would like to see. Thank you, guys. Next, we're going to have our AI teaching series, and we started with the concept of machine learning. Yeah, I'm going to share the content, and we're going to organize some certain event. Then stay tuned to that. Stay tuned to that. Stay tuned to that. Amazing stuffs are coming. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. We're going to be busy throughout the end of the year, and I'm looking forward to interview some big individuals in the space of artificial intelligence. Okay. Go to my bio. Please follow me on all channels. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on YouTube, on Instagram. Yes, I'm currently also on TikTok. I know I've not added that link, but I'm going to do that and I'll start posting on TikTok. Yeah. Thank you.